Let's discuss how our brains process evidence. As humans, we like to think that we process information very rationally, but when stereotypes are involved, we process evidence irrationally in a way that preserves these stereotypes and biases. One way this happens is called attentional spotlight. Our attention gets drawn, like a spotlight, to evidence that supports our expectations and away from evidence that violates expectations. In another research study, teachers were led to expect that a particular student was going to be either high or low in their academic ability. And they watched a video of the student taking a test. The teachers all saw the same test performance, which was decidedly mixed. The student got some hard questions right, some hard questions wrong. Some easy questions right, some easy questions wrong. When the teachers expected high performance from the student, they remembered all the hard questions the student got right, but forgot about the easy questions they got wrong. And then they gave the student high marks overall. When the teachers had low expectations, however, they remembered the easy questions the students got wrong, but forgot about the hard questions they had gotten right. And the teachers gave the student lower marks overall. Even though all teachers saw the same test performance, their attention became biased by their expectations, leading to different judgments. Attentional spotlights lead us to not notice when evidence disconfirms stereotypes. Even when we do notice, however, stereotypes also lead us to give disconfirming evidence less weight. This is called confirmation bias. Our brains give more weight to evidence that confirms expectations than to evidence that disconfirms expectations. Across many studies, researchers have estimated this imbalance to a mathematical ratio. For every one person who happens to confirm a stereotype, it takes 3 people who disconfirm that stereotype just to balance out the influence of that one person who confirms the stereotype. In other words, once a stereotype has become a habit of mind, even if your experiences say the stereotype is wrong 75% of the time, confirmation bias weighs that remaining 25% so much more heavily that there ends up being no change in how much you believe or rely on the stereotype when making judgments. And this doesn't happen consciously, it's just how your brain is processing information without you realizing it. Attentional spotlight and confirmation bias involve our attention to and weighting of evidence we actually have in front of us. Very often, however, stereotypic assumptions come to mind, but we never learn whether they were correct or incorrect. These are called untested assumptions, and they are the final topic of this module. Often, out in the world, we have assumptions that pop into our minds about other people. One example of this kind of stereotyping is commonly called gaydar. This is when people use stereotypes about how gay or lesbian people are supposed to look or act to jump to conclusions about someone's sexual orientation. Research shows that this gaydar stereotyping leads to wrong conclusions the overwhelming majority of the time, but many people nevertheless believe they have gaydar and can tell who is gay or lesbian. The effects of untested assumptions are one reason for this misbelief. Imagine that I'm walking down the street and I see a man who is dressed very fashionably and maybe seems a little feminine. Based on those stereotypic cues, I might make the quick assumption that he's gay. Chances are I'm not going to run up to him and say, "Yo, are you gay?" I'm not going to find out whether my assumption was correct or incorrect. But if I think about him later, I'll probably think about that gay guy I saw earlier, even though it was just my assumption. In fact, this is exactly how our brains work. They store these untested assumptions as if they were actual, objective, confirmatory evidence. When our brains do this, it makes the stereotypes and unintentional biases stronger. Try to watch out for these assumptions and recognize that often you don't know if they're true or not. I want to emphasize how all these constructs push for us to see stereotypes as true and reasonable. We build a whole story to justify choosing someone who confirms stereotypes. We push others into roles or behaviors that confirm stereotypes. We give more attention and weight to evidence that confirms stereotypes, and even when we have no evidence, we assume that people confirm stereotypes. Our brains have so many ways to try and protect our habits of mind. Our brains don't want us to break habits. But the good news is our minds can override these processes, and we can break those habits with motivation, awareness, tools, and effort. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. To be notified of when we post new videos, click the bell icon to turn on notifications. You can also go to biashabit.com to learn more, to donate, to sign up for our newsletter, or to contact us about evidence-based bias and DEI trainings. Thank you.